Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Killing Me Smalls podcast. I'm your host, Mike Small. You can follow me on Twitter, as you see right there, at Real Mike Small. And you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can go on YouTube under the painted lines and you get this podcast and many other great ones. This handsome devil next to me right here is someone that you all know. Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network. Mike is a pretty common face in this area. He started his career at WIP as a sports intern, from what I understand. Graduated from LaSalle University, had a long career with the Newark Star-Ledger, and is now in your living room on a daily basis on the NFL Network. Mike, welcome to the Killing Me Smalls podcast.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, and good to always be talking to somebody from the home market.
There you go. So you and I met a couple of years ago. We were standing on the field with a mutual friend at the link. I think it was a Thursday night game between the Eagles and the Redskins. And Carson Wentz was unbelievable in that game. It was almost like his coming out party. What's happened since then?
Yeah, I think it was a Monday nighter.
A Monday? Yeah.
Yeah, and is that the one where he escaped from the pocket? I think he had guys collapsing down on him, and he just comes out of it.
Fired that bullet in the corner of the end zone.
Yeah, which he sort of did again. I think the following year, if I've got my years correct, in Washington in the opener, an escape act. I think he hit Aguilar for a touchdown, if I'm recalling that correctly, and it just feels like a completely different guy. And I think it's a combination of factors. I think the Hurts, when they drafted Hurts, my question to those guys was, how do you think Carson's going to respond to it? Because, he's been injured. He hasn't completed seasons. So I'm sure he's going to look at that and say, well, they don't believe in my ability to stay healthy. I don't know that he thought they don't believe in my ability to play, period. But their thought was, no, he's mentally strong. He's a guy with strong faith. He's been through a lot. He watched another guy win the Super Bowl with the team that he had pretty much led to the doorstep. Yeah. And so they thought he was going to be fine. And they thought they had a guy who was able to handle that. I think there's no question that factored into it. And then once he started to play poorly, see, his problem is he really gets inside his own head and he starts pressing and he tries to do too much, which he has admitted in the past. So I think all that kind of combined and snowballed and just got to a point of no return, at least for last season. Can he get back there? Can he do it without, I said this, late in the season, he needs a hard reset, whether it's a new coaching staff, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, would be a surprise at this point, or a new location, a new destination for him, which TBD. So I think the Eagles' plan right now is to juggle the offensive coaching staff. I don't know what they could do to make that happen, to make Carson Wentz feel like, see, you got to accomplish two things. You got to make him feel like, all right, cool, we got a plan now going forward that I'm comfortable with. But also you need to change it enough for the people in the market, the fans inside the building, whoever, to feel confident like, oh, it's going to be different. Yeah. And I see a problem here. Carson loves Press Taylor. Press Taylor's in a prominent spot. To change the coaching staff, you're going to have to move him out, which I think is going to upset Carson. So I think that's the stumbling block in my mind to accomplishing both goals. We'll see how the Eagles try and do it, and we'll see if Carson can buy it.
In watching the games, it looked like he was pretty good in the beginning of the year, and the team was letting him down. I mean, the receivers are not good. Especially when Ertz went out, he lost his security blanket. The offensive line has been patchwork at best all year, and he got the hell beat out of him early on in the year, and there was nobody getting open. And I think you're right; he tried to do too much. And then I look back, and it looked like as the season went along, it got into his head. And then at some point, it just fell apart. Do you think the differences between he and Peterson and the, whatever has been reported, do you think those differences are irreconcilable?
I think that, no, I don't. But I think that it's going to have to be, and this is why I'm answering 3 different questions and I'm not answering any of them.
Let
me start. Let me start here.
I asked you 3 different questions, so it's
yeah.
okay.
Well, let me start here. The criticism toward Howie Roseman, to me, not the criticism, the wanting his head, is completely unwarranted to me, because this is a guy who, I'm going to get there, I promise you. This is a guy who was successful when he first got the job, first got promoted, was successful in getting the coach that everybody wanted. Now, granted, it didn't work out with Chip Kelly, but that's the guy that everybody wanted, and he went out and he got him. Gets fired without being actually fired, comes back, wins the Super Bowl. Do you know how difficult it is as a general manager to manage all of those things there? And yes, they have not been good enough from a talent gathering standpoint the last couple of years. But that's only part of a general manager's job. I think everybody sits there and thinks, well, he's got to pick the best players. Okay, they haven't done a good job of that, but by the same token, they lost Joe Douglas and Andrew Berry in back-to-back years to go become GMs, by the way, elsewhere. So a big part of a general manager's job is basically, keeping the thing afloat in rocky waters. And that is where we are right now. Because whether you keep Carson Wentz, whether you go to Jalen Hurts and you trade Wentz, this is going to be a difficult situation because your coach is also on the hot seat that a general manager is going to have to maneuver. And I think this is actually one of the better things that Roseman's able to do that other GMs struggle with, is managing difficult situations. Mm-hmm. So I believe right now that you've got a quarterback who was very upset that he was benched because of what you were talking about, Mike, and because of what listen, early in the season, I was saying, look, his receivers are down again. He doesn't have his targets. Yeah. He's thrown to a bunch of rookies and young guys that didn't get reps during preseason and in the offseason because there was no preseason and there was no OTA and there was no minicamp. So I was laying out excuse after excuse. Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to Cleveland and he's just not seeing wide open guys right in front of him. And it's like, the excuses got to stop at that point. Yeah. And I think that's where the coaching staff was and said, we got to do something here. Because Doug Peterson said I'd be admitting the season was over if I went to Jalen Hurts. And then at some point it looked like Hurts was the only thing that was going to save him. So I think he outperformed expectations. But so is it beyond repair? No, because I think I gave Howie a puncher's chance to bring this thing back home and get it on level ground. I don't know how he's going to do it. I think it's extremely difficult. I think you got a guy that's very upset that he got benched because he feels like it wasn't his fault and he should have been given the chance to kind of get this thing back on the tracks. But if I was going to pick a GM that had a chance to do it and you gave me the top 3 to 5 in the league, Howie would be there. So I'm fascinated to see how he's going to land this plane, which, by the way, could also end with Wentz elsewhere and having to say, all right, we've got a plan going forward. We just couldn't make it work. We believe in Jalen Hurts. And we're going to build this thing around him.
Well, that's the question, right? Did they see enough? I know what the fans think. Did the Eagles brass, in your opinion, see enough that they could move on from Carson and that Jalen has shown enough that he could be their quarterback of the future?
No. I mean, that's a qualified no. And the reason I say that is, I think if it was a cleaner cut financially, I think that they would probably just move on. But I think they realize – for us, it's probably better if we keep Wentz, and who knows, maybe we can get him back on track. So that's the card that they're playing right now. If he doesn't go along with it, it just looks like, you know what, he's not going to buy in. Then we've got to make the move and just, cut the cord and do the best that we can at this point. But I also think it's because, go back to the game that you were talking about with Wentz against Washington. And go back to start number 1 against the Browns when he didn't even play much in the preseason, comes out week 1 from an FCS program all the way up to the NFL and looks like he's been there for 5 years. Right out of the gate. Jalen Hurts showed you some things. I don't know that it's the same. You're not looking at him going, oh, that's the guy. That's what we were saying about Wentz. Oh, man, that's the guy. So I would say that, no, he hasn't shown them enough. But by the same token, if they get to the point where they've got to move on from Wentz because it's not going to work out, I think that they're just going to say, all right, we got to buy in. He was pretty good. He was really good at times. Now let's see if we can get a little bit more out of him, develop him. So I think it's right up to that line where you'd want to see with him. I don't know that he's across that, and I think there's still some questions about what defenses could do. Because I spoke to defensive coaches that played him and said, if we get another crack at him, we've got a better idea for how to defend him, and we think that we could shut some of the things that they were doing down. So now there's going to be tape on him out there. So I think inside that building, if they were being completely honest, they would say, no, we haven't seen enough. Not that we're discounting the possibility he could be a good quarterback, but I don't think that they've seen enough.
So play this out with me. They decide to go with Carson, right? We're going to give him another shot. There's the kumbaya sessions in the media throughout the offseason, the summer. They kiss and make up. He and Doug are sitting on a podium, everything else, right?
Yep.
He throws 2 picks in the first game, and everybody's booing and screaming for Jalen, assuming fans will be back there. Does that set you back? What does that do in terms of the franchise? Do you think it's easier to make that cleaner break, or is it worth the risk? And I guess that's the question they have to ask themselves.
Yeah, I think it probably is easier to make the cleaner break.
Yeah,
because
if you didn't have $34 million on the line.
Yeah, but right, that's a huge the cap implications and the cash implications, because who knows how much they're going to have to maybe take on to facilitate a trade. That's another thing. How high do you want your draft pick compensation to be? The more that you take on yourself, the more the other team's going to be willing to give you compensation. I think that's the easier path, because think about what you said. He comes back, even if he doesn't throw picks, he's playing well. Jalen Hurts is going to be there. You're not trading Hurts, I don't think. And if you do,
not on a contract.
Yeah, I think that's a weird thing to do. I think I know there are a lot of guys in that locker room. Certainly Miles Sanders has made that clear publicly, that are Hurts guys. And I don't think that means that they're not Wentz guys. I just think that they are rallying around Jalen Hurts a little bit differently. So now if you're going to go back to Wentz, those guys in that locker room are going to be like, well, we like the other guy. Not better, but we like the other guy, and we thought he had a chance. So why are we going back here where this guy's – so that's a difficult part. So I think that's the harder path back to 2021 with Wentz there. But Howie seems like he – now, listen, the other thing is he could be putting up a front here to get teams to be more aggressive to take him away, to say, no, we're going to keep this guy. To make other teams really – because there's going to be a need around the league at quarterback. So this could all be some kind of bluff and some kind of chess move by Howie. But we'll see how it goes. A lot is going to be in Carson Wentz's hands here. Yeah,
we're going to get into some other things going on in the NFL. I just want to, Mike, if you'll indulge me a quick break here from a charity perspective. We like to do this on every one of the podcasts. My daughter is a brain tumor survivor. She has a brain tumor. It was not able to be operated on, but she went through chemotherapy and is doing really, really well, and started a charity called Small Miracles. And this past December that we raised about $15,000, where she went and brought gifts for all the kids going through chemotherapy on the oncology floor at Children's Hospital. We continue to raise it. We've now got masks for sale and hoodies and sweatshirts, and that stuff will be all coming up on the website very soon. If you want to donate or check it out, please check out www.smallmiraclesinc.org. And you can check out the charity, read about my daughter's story. She's an amazing kid. She's 17 years old, junior in high school, top student, got almost a perfect score in her SATs, charity, and is the most courageous human being I know. So thanks for indulging me a moment on that. I know you're a new father again. Congratulations. You got 2 of them, right?
Got 2 of them now. Yeah, thank you.
And that's why you got those circles under your eyes. You're not sleeping a whole lot, or no? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's she's a pretty good baby, but they're still newborns, right? So they're still going to challenge you and keep you a little disrupted.
One of the things I enjoy about watching the NFL Network, and even more listening to the Rap Sheet and Friends podcast when you guys are on there, you guys have a good time together. It seems like you don't take yourselves too seriously. You love the football aspect, but you all seem to have a good time with each other.
Yeah, we were friends before we started working together. So working together was really a treat for me, for Tom Pelissero, and for Ian as well. We probably yell at each other a little bit like brothers would. And I had a brother growing up, and you know how it gets. But for the most part, we've got each other's backs, and working together and having those guys on my side has been just huge for us professionally and personally.
No, I think it makes it great for the fans watching and listening, and it's fun to listen to and I feel like I'm on your group chats. It just feels like we're hanging out when I'm listening. Hey, so getting into the NFL playoffs as we head down that direction, is it Kansas City against the field? I mean, do you see anybody challenging them right now? I don't at the moment.
I could see them. Listen, the AFC is tough.
Yeah.
It's not like when I look at the NFC,
Buffalo
I see
looked pretty good last week. I'll tell you that.
What's that?
Buffalo looked real good last week.
They do.
Yeah.
There's something to me. Maybe it's that game that they played Kansas City, and Kansas City was able to play a different style of football and beat them in Buffalo, which, I get it. There were no fans. That makes it a little bit different. The home field advantage went away this year in the NFL, obviously. So maybe it's that in the back of my head, or Tennessee beating them too. They had some better quality wins than they did last year. Last year my criticism against Buffalo was they win the games they're supposed to win, but the ones that I need them to step up and win, I need to start seeing those. Mm-hmm. They weren't doing that last year. They did a little bit of mix this year. They didn't win that Kansas City game. They didn't win that Tennessee game, but they won some other games. They beat Pittsburgh. And they beat Seattle at home. They beat the Rams at home. So they did win some of those games that I'm talking about. So I feel like they're like right there. And then next year, I'm going to say, okay, this is the contender. Can Kansas City beat Buffalo? Almost feels like that's the way it's going. But I think between Kansas City, Indianapolis, who I think that we're not giving enough love to, because when they're on, they're really on. I mean, they're so talented across the board. When it's their day,
Carson Wentz home, Indianapolis.
What's that?
You mean future Carson Wentz home, Indianapolis?
I don't know about that. I think everybody's putting them there. There's some other places. Look, New Orleans is going to need a quarterback. New England's going to need a quarterback. Yeah. I believe there's going to be interest from both of those teams. Who's going to be willing to give up the most draft? That's the thing. It's not like he gets to pick his destination. Another thing that, by the way, Howie's going to have to figure out, how much control, if we get to that point, am I going to give Carson and his people versus how much can I help make this happen as far as finding a trade partner. But anyway, Indianapolis, Tennessee, with the way that they can run the ball, can certainly dictate things. I think they're better through the air this year with the way that A.J. Brown is playing. I think that there are a number of teams that could challenge Kansas City. So I don't stamp their ticket automatically. I think, depending on – if you're beating Kansas City, it's going to have to be your day, right?
Right.
It's just going to have to be your day. But I feel like some of these teams, when it's their day, they're scary and they dictate the tone. That's what you're going to have to do against Kansas City.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's way too early to talk about this, but I think it's fascinating. Everybody knows Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. Do you think the Jets give up on Sam Darnold and go for one of the other two quarterbacks?
No, I think they're considering keeping Sam and maybe trading out or taking position player, taking Penei Sewell from Oregon, which then you've got yourself theoretically really good offensive tackles on both sides, and maybe that changes things. I believe they're considering that. I really, really do. I would think if you do that, you slide back and try and get more draft pick compensation for somebody who wants a quarterback to go get up there to number 2. So, maybe that's part of the plan with Joe Douglas and Howie Roseman, that, Howie's sitting there thinking, well, if I got that was part of my theory for why they wanted the 6th pick so badly to drop that game against Washington, because now if you're getting up to 2, if you're coming from 6, it's a whole lot different, right?
That's what they did going here. Keep going.
That's what they did with Wentz. There was that stepping stone, right, where they get up to 9 or 8 with Miami or whatever it was, and then from there they went all the way up to number 2. Which again,
Zach Wilson or Fields,
possible, yeah. Which again is part of why I think Howie doesn't get enough credit. Stuff like that. That's outside the box type stuff that he's been able to do. So perhaps that's part of the plan. Nobody's told me that, but I've been going over all scenarios.
Conspiracy theories. All right, so another conspiracy theory. I'm an unapologetic Dolphin fan. Chan Gailey resigns yesterday. There's rumors out that he resigned because Chris Greer gave the vote of approval to Tua. Do you think Tua's the guy in Miami, even though they said he was? Or do you think they look at a quarterback? Or do you think that was a diversion? What's your gut tell you from down there?
I think they're riding one more year with Tua here. I truly believe that. And listen, Chan didn't give his reasons. I do know this. When Brian Flores said on, I think it was Tuesday when he spoke to the media, that he didn't expect any staff changes, he truly meant that. The Chan Gailey resignation the following morning did surprise them across the board. Really did. Wow. And they were honest about that, at least behind the scenes, that, nobody really expected this. So now, by the same token, nobody expected him to be there for 5 to 10 years either. They knew it was a short-term thing with him, and certainly his relationship with Ryan Fitzpatrick was a big part of that. So I won't speak for Chan. I would say that wouldn't surprise me that, like, hey, if they're going to ride with Tua and I came back in large part because of my relationship with Fitz, maybe it's time to step aside. I mean, the guy's 69 years old too. Yeah. So I think that was all a big factor there. So let's see who they bring in as OC, somebody that maybe could play a little bit more to Tua's strength here.
Mike, we love watching you on the NFL Network. We love following you. Can you tell everybody where they can follow you on Twitter and on Instagram and everything else?
Yeah, Twitter's easy. Mike Garafolo, Garafolo. I think there's an underscore in there on Instagram, but if you just search my name, it'll come up there. Find me on Facebook. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook, but you can find me on Facebook. And maybe I'll give out my email address. No, we'll stop there. You can find me.
I got your phone number right here. I'm going to do it now. Mike, thanks for being a guest. I hope we can get you back sometime. Really appreciate your time and everything. All the best, and thanks again.
You got it, Mike. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening to the Killing Me Smalls podcast. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.